Welcome back to 60 Plus with Dylan and Toby, talking all things sports and whatever we want. Toby, it's great to be back.
Man, it really honestly is, bro. This is a really exciting venture that we're going to take you guys on. We're going to address basketball, soccer, football, boxing, UFC, you guys name it. We're here to listen, we're here to provide, and we just want to make content that makes us happy and makes you guys happy.
Yeah, we're really just looking forward to making pretty much whatever we want to talk about sports-wise. Anything vaguely related to sports, really, is something we're going to be definitely taking a look at. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the NBA, and that's General Madness this season. The NFL Draft with our top 10 picks preview. Champions League predictions mixed with that whole crazy debacle of the European Super League. And a little bit of fight stuff. So, the NBA, dude, this season sucks. Everyone keeps on getting hurt, man.
Honestly, it's actually sad, because before the season started, I feel like all the clear favorites were, the Lakers are coming out of the West, and the Brooklyn Nets, with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden were just gliding out of the East. But after we look at how things have played out, I mean, look at the Utah Jazz at first seed.
The Jazz. How the Jazz? I mean, they're playing just really good team basketball, which is great, and you love to watch that. But it's like, if everyone was healthy, they're not the one seed. I mean, maybe they are, but it's still like I'm not taking them seriously yet as a contender, even though I probably should.
100%, dude. I love them a lot, and I believe they're ranked second in paint defensive efficiency right now, so they are doing it on both sides of the ball. Quinn Snyder has also been an excellent coach, and coaching does matter in the playoffs, but I don't see them knocking out any of the seeds that are 2 through 5, to be honest with you. I would take the Nuggets over them in a series, even after Jamal Murray, sadly.
With Jamal out, it's close. But yeah, I'll probably say with Jamal, I think they might get him without Jamal. I think there's a chance, but it's tough. That's tough.
It is close. Michael Porter Jr. is a ascending
He's
player.
balling. He's a baller. He's a sniper.
He really is ascending. Aaron Gordon, I feel, was a great pickup. And Jokic is... I love Donovan Mitchell, but there is no one on that Jazz team comparable to Nikola Jokic right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely no one. Embiid is actually ranked first in the MVP race on accounts of PER, and Jokic finishes second after Embiid.
But Jokic hasn't missed a
points.
game. Embiid's missed like a month of the season. I think Jokic has to be MVP this year.
To me, I would also have Nikola Jokic as my MVP, but people are propelling Embiid for I don't know what reason.
It's because the whole narrative of like whoever's the first seed gets MVP or whatever, which is kind of BS. But I mean, Jokic is just plain ridiculous this year. I mean, people like to get into the argument like, oh, well, if we're looking at most valuable, when Steph's not playing, the Warriors are just a bunch of G Leaguers and all of that kind of stuff. But so I mean, if you look at like most valuable, it's always going to be like LeBron or Steph or something.
Yeah.
But I think just Jokic is going off this year. He's putting up stupid numbers.
It's crazy. It's if we gave Russell Westbrook an MVP for his triple-double, I love the man. But I think we're going to have to give Jokic an MVP for his stats as well. What he's doing is just... Dylan, I have very rarely seen centers be the prime orchestrators of an offense. Jokic,
so weird.
Jokic also does it in the clutch as well.
He is clutch.
We cannot discount him on that as well. I love Embiid. Embiid is a star, and he is the most Shaq-like player we have. I feel like that
over Giannis? Shaq-like?
This season, the way he's with his back to the basket and averaging 12 free throws a game, he may be more Shaq-like than Giannis for this season.
Hot take.
He's doing better defensively than Giannis too, so it is shifty. But this season specifically, this window that we're looking at, I may have to say he is more Shaq-like than Giannis right now.
Okay, so back on to the Jazz. So if we were to compare them in the playoff series with the other West teams that are playoff hopefuls, are they going to win it? So let's say the Spurs. Jazz versus Spurs. Who wins that?
Jazz.
Yeah,
100%.
okay, I agree with that. Jazz versus Portland. That's tough already. And they're like this, what, the 5th seed?
Yeah.
4th seed?
Yeah. Are we saying that all teams are both completely healthy?
Yeah, we're going to assume everyone's healthy unless they had some like season-ending injury that we know they won't be back for in the playoffs.
To me, Portland has more experience facilitating deeper playoff runs. People may not remember, but several years ago, Portland did make it to the Western Conference Finals in a very stacked Western Conference.
Yeah, they didn't have to go through the Clippers or the LeBron Lakers, though.
They didn't have to, but the truth is that when was the last time that the Jazz left the first round? You know?
That is also a fact. Oh, no, they beat the Thunder with PG. That in the first year they had PG in the first round.
They did, and Portland beat them too. Portland's team now, I believe, is better constructed than it was then.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially with getting Rocco in the offseason. That was huge.
I am not trying to make a case for Portland as if they deserve it over Utah, because Utah's coaching, Utah's off-ball and on-ball play, Utah's superstar Donovan Mitchell does rise to the occasion in the playoffs as great as many of the premier guards in this league do. So I do not want to discount their playoff performance. But you're right. The Blazers would already be a tough pick. I don't know if I could give you one right now, Dylan. I don't know if I could.
I think I wouldn't fault you if you went either way. That's tough. That matchup would go either way. Okay, so
for me, I would say I would select barring health when that matchup comes up.
Yeah, and then obviously they're not going to beat the Lakers or Clippers at full health. That's just like a given.
No way.
Would they beat the Suns? That's really Chris Paul should be getting MVP shouts. He turned that team from like an 8th seed to lottery team to like a juggernaut in the West. It's ridiculous.
I truly believe that. If you look at Oklahoma City Thunder right now and where they are at without Chris Paul, it even reminds me of LeBron's effect on when he left the Cavaliers. And Dylan, for the people that want to look up stats, and that's how they drive their MVP decisions, can you tell me how Chris Paul's stats this season differ that much from Steve Nash's MVP stats? It's not that far off.
That's facts.
It is not that far off. So if we take that into consideration and we see how Chris Paul has elevated them from an unsuccessful play-in spot team to people are chattering about title contention, and they've maintained exceptional health throughout the season and have built chemistry, and they have 2 superstars in not only Chris Paul but also Devin Booker.
Ain't no slouch either.
They are live. They are live, Dylan. I will put it like that.
Yeah, they play Jazz versus Suns. I feel like I just have to go with Chris Paul. Like, I can't bet against Chris Paul in that series.
I think so, too.
Which sucks, because I love Mike Conley, Mitchell, Gobert, Jingles, like that. I love this Jazz team. But, it's so tough. Their team is there's nothing wrong with it, except, like, their good guys aren't as good as other team superstars.
100%, but I believe that Chris Paul does tip the scales.
Yeah.
When you enter the playoffs, as we both know, we've been watching this game for a decade now, or possibly even more. When you enter playoffs and teams know your schemes, playoffs, they slow down the field of play. Those players that have higher IQ are going to be found to be extremely effective. That's why I really love the Clippers' addition of Rajon Rondo to their roster for this playoffs. Yes. And if we look at it, yes, I do think the appearance of superstars in the playoffs do matter, and the Suns at the moment do have more superstars than the Utah Jazz do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they do.
That's tough. And then I think for the other 2 fringe playoff teams that are kind of coming in here, and the Warriors and the Mavericks, I think it's kind of similar with them, is if they were to play Utah in the playoffs, like Luka and Steph can win a game or 2 on their own, but their teams I just don't feel are as complete enough to really beat the Jazz in a 7-game series. Maybe if Kristaps balls out, Dallas has a chance, but especially with the Warriors, without Clay, I mean, they're kind of screwed. I mean, Steph could win them a game or 2, but I don't really see the Warriors or the Mavericks putting together enough to really beat Utah in a 7-game series in the playoffs.
I think you're right. If we even look at the teams on paper, we can look at Donovan Mitchell, we can look at Mike Conley, we can look at Rudy Gobert. And if we put that against some of the Warriors players that have not developed chemistry, and some of their players, for example, Wiggins and Oubre, that are just lacking playoff experience in general, in comparison to the Jazz players, they are youthful and they are athletic, but in the playoffs where the pace slows down, I'm going to have to take experience over youth. Yeah. That's the bottom line for me.
Although I will say Wiggins has been solid this year. Career high from 3, and he's been guarding. He's been the Warriors' best defender every night. He's been looking great. Probably overpaid on that max rookie deal that he signed, but I got to put some respect on my boy Wiggins' name.
hey, I'm with it. And then addressing what you said about the Mavericks, if Kristaps is healthy and Kristaps is balling, they may take out the Jazz. But if it's Luka by himself, I just don't see it.
He could win a game or two, but not a series. That's too much to ask. He's not LeBron. He's not 2018 LeBron.
Yeah. Not there yet, at least. That kid has some upside, Dylan. I can tell you that.
He's ridiculous, yes. One to watch.
That also brings me to a small little teaser I have for you, Dylan, and for some of our fans out there. Would you, doing a draft right now, select Luka Doncic or Zion Williamson to build a team around him? Let me know your thoughts.
It's not even a question.
Okay. Some would select Zion.
I don't understand the Zion. Zion's great. I'm not saying he's not good. But I don't understand how... I get that they're starting to do point Zion and run the offense through him. But they're still testing that out. We don't know for sure if point Zion is a thing that works. We know an offense running through Luka works.
True.
And he has a decent team around him in Dallas, but it looks like with Luka, you give him the keys to the offense and you let him run for the next 15, 20 years and you just see where it takes you. Versus with Zion, you might need a primary ball handler. We don't know if he can be the guy that takes the ball up the court every single possession. And offensive outputs can be similar, but Luka's playmaking and scoring, I just think if I had the number one pick, I want a guy that can be my number one option and lead my offense. So I would take Luka.
I definitely respect that. I also see Luka Doncic as a 3-level player. He can score, he can facilitate, and he can defend, and he can also play make. Luka Doncic is sensational, folks. What this question reminds me of also is when Kawhi Leonard went up against Giannis in the Eastern Conference playoffs, the year that Kawhi had an amazing run. Giannis was an exceptional player, playing at an MVP caliber level, but he did not have a solid jump shot. And what happened because of that? They walled him, they blocked him off. He was the focal point of the offense, and they punished them. Luka Doncic's availability of a shot, not only throughout the game, but also in the clutch, as we have seen, I believe that is going to be a very valuable characteristic for his gameplay in respect to Zion that forces his way to the basket, although very effectively in the same way that Giannis does. When the pace of the game slows down in the playoffs, I don't know if Zion's barreling to the basket will be as effective as it had proved for him throughout the regular season.
Yeah, that's been the thing with Giannis ever since he's arrived in the playoffs. Every team walls him. He hasn't got out of the second round yet.
No.
I mean, this year could be the year if he's on the right side of the bracket and avoids the Nets and the Sixers. But I mean, I believe Giannis. I believe he can do it. Mm-hmm. Just yet to be seen. Mm-hmm. But I think it will happen eventually.
Dylan, quick question. I am thinking about this question before this segment and for a couple of days now, to be honest with you. If you had to pick from the legitimate title contenders that were present in both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and you look at who are legitimate threats and contenders, what would you say is actually a closer race not to win the finals, but to get to the finals between the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, considering all teams walk into the playoffs as healthy as can be.
I mean, the West, the Lakers and Clippers, that's going to be interesting. Obviously, we didn't get to see it in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was going to be one to watch. Then on the East, it's really who you think's going to make it out of the big three of Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philly. I think it's probably going to be Philly, and obviously health permitting Philly and Brooklyn. And it's that game is really tough, but I think just the pure amount of superstars that Brooklyn has, like what's the saying? Like good players figure it out. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah.
figure it out. Like
Yeah.
you can say like the only thing you can say in a Philly versus Brooklyn series is Philly's defense could overwhelm them. But that's saying that Ben Simmons can't guard KD, Harden, and Kyrie at the same time.
He can't. You're right.
I think Brooklyn is it's easier for me to pick Brooklyn over Philly than it is me to pick the Lakers over the Clippers. So I think because of that, the Western Conference Clippers Lakers thing is the tougher matchup. If that answers your question.
Yeah. For me, I feel like defense wins championships. I feel like all the kids out there need to get that into their head. Defense wins championships. But man, those Bucks and that addition of Drew Holiday, Dylan, I am telling you, it is something else.
That was huge.
Giannis and Drew Holiday, both of them can defend post and perimeter.
Middleton's two-way player right too.
That is going to be a tight one because I'm telling you, Kyrie is having fun right now, but Drew Holiday is no pushover. He is no scrub.
So you're saying the Sixers don't make it out of the three in the East?
Dylan, this is one of the closest Eastern Conference races I've seen in years, to be honest with you, because I feel like Ben Simmons is legitimately a top 3 defensive player on the perimeter in the league right now. I feel like Ben Simmons is sensational, and we all know that no one in the last 15 years of professional basketball can stop what is known as Kevin Durant. But if I had to pick right now who can do one of the best jobs out there, Ben Simmons would be on my list. He would be up there. Embiid, the way he is playing, I would want to take him over Giannis this year as well. In the playoffs at least, because he does offer a higher level of shooting than Giannis does as well. It's close, Dylan.
It's close. It's tough.
LeBron moved out. LeBron did move out, and that left space for others.
Yep. Big brother moved out. Now it's the fight to get his room.
Another team that we may have to consider just because of last year's strive through is the Miami Heat. I know many had them down. Many were asking why they even belonged there. But they found a way. They have Oladipo, Iguodala, Jimmy Butler. Those are 3 premier level perimeter defenders. That can be a problem for Brooklyn's top 3. I don't think it'll stop them, but those 3 perimeter defenders may be a better 3 perimeter defensive set than any other team in the East has to offer. What do you think about that, Dylan?
I like Miami. I want to like Miami. But every time I've watched them this season, they look slow. The offense is it's there, but it's not making me go like, wow, this team is dangerous. Look out for this team. Obviously, they're a good team, but their defense, they've seen more of a defensive first team. And yes, defense works in the playoffs, but like you got to have somebody that can just drop like 25, 30 a night. Jimmy Butler can do that. Bam is good defensively. He's not an offensive juggernaut like Embiid or Giannis. And Oladipo, he hasn't been the same since 2018 when he averaged 20. Then ever since that, he can't stay healthy. And when he's been healthy, he's been not bad, but just all right. So if you look at their guard of Oladipo versus Drew versus, I guess you would say, Ben Simmons and versus Kyrie, Oladipo is probably at the bottom of that, unfortunately.
Definitely
You look
is.
at the next biggest player, you have Jimmy versus Tobias Harris versus Middleton versus Harden. Jimmy's like probably 2. You might take, I don't know if I take him over Harden, but he's in there. And then if you go to their bigs of Bam versus Embiid, Giannis, and KD, they're good, they're not good enough. The superstar power of the other teams is just too much for them, in my opinion.
Okay. I actually consider that a fair diagnosis. I feel like Miami, depending on where they get seeded, they may make it out of the first round, but if they battle any of the big three, as you have stated, it's not going to be a pretty sight for them, especially as they have been battling health. I feel like one of the factors that came through last year in the playoff bubble was that they remained healthy throughout the playoffs. Everybody on their team was relatively healthy up until the finals. Right now, they don't have that health factor going for them. So one of their biggest advantages is gone. You know.
Yeah.
That's the only way to slice it. We got to tell it how it is. You know, that is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, their chances are jeopardized in relative to how they were standing last year.
Okay, it's Toby. So, if there was a big round robin, 1-game single elimination tournament right now of all the teams in the NBA, including everyone's health predicaments right now, who wins the finals? Who becomes the last team standing?
Who wins the finals as of right now with the rosters we have right now? Dylan, that one is a very, very, very difficult question to answer for you. But if I had to narrow it down, I would have, right now, the Suns, actually.
The Suns.
Coming out of the West, with the health conditions that we have right now. And I would have... This is a close one, Dylan. This is a close one. Durant just keeps getting re-injured, so I am actually going to take the Bucks to come out of the East.
The Bucks out of the East.
Yeah.
Now, when I was thinking about this, I really wanted to say the Clippers, but Kawhi, he's missing like the next 3 games or something. So that knocks him down a peg for me.
Yeah.
Lakers, obviously, LeBron's not back yet. I still like Utah. I still like Phoenix, keeping them in the back of my pocket. In the East, the Nets aren't healthy enough. The Bucks, is Giannis still out? Is he still missing games?
No. He's playing. He's playing now.
He's playing? Okay. So they're pretty much full health.
Yeah.
And the Sixers are at full health right now.
No, Sixers actually missed Ben Simmons last night.
Was that just a rest? Or is he hurt?
I believe that he had a issue with his thigh, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I'm going to check the fantasy thing right now.
Okay.
Simmons. He was sick. Okay, he's fine.
Okay.
So he was Sixers and Bucks basically at full health. Oh, I'm gonna take the Sixers. Embiid is just too good right now.
No,
and then
I understand, but I'm gonna have to stick with the Bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think regardless if the Sixers were to play the Suns or Utah in the finals, I think Embiid's too good right now. It's going to be Embiid. If there was a single game final playoffs played today, I'm taking the Sixers.
I can honestly, I think as of right now, whether your pick, the 76ers, or my pick, the Bucks, come out of the East, I think that they would beat whoever comes out of the West with present conditions.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, if any of those East Big Three were to play any of the West team right now, especially with the Lakers and Clippers dealing with injuries, yeah, definitely.
They would just overwhelm them.
All right, so with the NFL draft coming up shortly here in the following weeks, not even weeks, isn't it like Tuesday or something? It's close. It's coming up. So
Yep.
we have our top 10 picks for the draft, our mock draft. So, Taben, are you ready for this?
Take it away, Dylan. Take it away.
All right. So with the first pick in the draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select. I have them taking Trevor Lawrence. Come on. Enough said. It's Trevor
Enough
Lawrence.
said. I have nothing to say.
It's not even a topic of debate. So the number 2, the New York Jets. I have them taking Zach Wilson.
I also have
the dude went off. It's pretty much a lock. They've been saying for weeks, Jets want Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Now, the third pick with the San Francisco 49ers, here's where it gets interesting. Now, everyone's saying they moved up to 3 to take Justin Fields.
Okay.
I think they're taking Mac Jones. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Fields, but I just think it would be really funny to see all the Niner fans cry because they moved up to 3 to get Mac Jones.
Dylan, what is crazy is that I also have them taking
No!
Mac Jones. I also have them taking Mac Jones. Mac Jones is just... He knows how to play at a high level. The way he was competing at Alabama, he did have great wideouts, Jalen Waddle and the Heisman winner, Devontae Smith. He did have weapons, but if you look at how he excelled on a championship stage and throughout his entire college career, I think that he is one of the most NFL-ready prospects at the quarterback position, and I feel like the Niners just cannot pass on that experience, as they know that they're pretty close to being Super Bowl ready with their impeccable defense of theirs.
Yeah, I think they take Mac Jones or any other quarterback. Obviously, I'm saying Jones. And they have a little QB battle with Garoppolo. If worst case scenario, he sits under Jimmy for a year, then they cut Jimmy and start Mac Jones next season. But yeah, I think they take a quarterback there for sure. But that's going to be the pick to watch in the draft. So then the fourth pick in the draft, the Atlanta Falcons. I have them taking Trey Lance from North Dakota State. I mean, obviously, I think they could take Pitts or Fields, but I think Trey Lance is their guy because they've been sitting there at 4 for a while. They know Lawrence and Wilson are 1 and 2. I think they're going to be assuming that the team in 3 is going to take Fields. So I think they take Trey Lance, have him sit under Matty Ice for a year, and then they're rolling.
And Dylan, this is actually where RC's part. I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Kyle Pitts out of Florida. Dylan, that tight end is sensational. I have not seen a tight end prospect such as himself in the last 10 years, Dylan. The last 10 years. I know it sounds drastic, but a prospect coming out of the draft, Dylan, he has every tool. If you look at his pro day, just shattering, Dylan. If you look at his breakaway speed, his cuts, his route running, his physicality, his reach, the physical attributes that he has, and the high level of skill and high level of play that he implemented for that Florida football team, Dylan, it's something else. And I feel like when you pair him with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, the Falcons know that they are instantly one of the best receiving corps in the National Football League. I would have bounced on your quarterback selection as well, but if they were to select a quarterback, I feel like they would have traded Matt Ryan before the deadline, especially with his nagging contract, and picked up at least a second-rounder that they could have used to construct a complete rebuild. I am struggling to consider why they would want to pay Matt Ryan another set of tens of millions of dollars a year if they were just going to move off of him. So because of those multitude of reasons, I'm going to have Atlanta actually selecting Kyle Pitts at 4th.
See, I think they could take Pitts because obviously when they lost Austin Hooper an off season or 2 ago, that was a big hole. But, I mean, if you look at the core of that team with Julio and Matt Ryan, they're both over 30. And I believe, I could be totally wrong on this, but there is an out in Matt Ryan's contract at the end of next season. So my whole train of thought was draft a QB, sit him behind Matt Ryan for a year, let Matt Ryan start this year, cut him at the end, Trey Lance takes over next season. But obviously I could see Pitts, but I just can't see a tight end going that high in the draft. I get it, he's amazing. But it's tight end at 4, I can't do it. I can't put a tight end getting picked at 4.
Dylan, all I can say is that I would not be surprised in the slightest if they did select a quarterback as you're suggesting. But Dylan, Kyle Pitts is. Let me just say that although he's a tight end, you will not hear anyone at all, telling them that they made a mistake, even though it was the fourth overall pick.
Yeah.
Dylan, what do you have looking at for number 5?
Well, for number 5 with the Cincinnati Bengals, I have them taking Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. I mean, you got Burrow. You got to protect him now. He was getting killed last year. I think it's a pretty easy pick.
For me, I also have them taking Sewell. I kind of struggled with this pick because I know that Joe Burrow has a presence in the front office, and he would really love to play with his wideout that he did at LSU, the fantastic Jamar Chase. But I feel like after the hits and the damage that the franchise quarterback Joe Burrow took during the course of last season, they're going to have to get that offensive tackle and protect him. And Sewell is ranked first overall at his position. And he can play tackle and guard, I've heard. Yep. So that's going to be a very versatile position player that they can use to protect Burrow, which is their future.
Yep. You draft him, plug him into the line, you got a stud offensive line for the next 10 years. Then with number 6, the Miami Dolphins, I have Jamar Chase from LSU. I have him going to the Dolphins at 6. I mean, you got to give Tua some weapons to see if he's legit. You got Devontae Parker, Jamar Chase, Mike Gesicki. That's a decent offense. Give Tua the weapons. You got to see if he's the real deal because they were 9-7 last year. If Tua's real, they should be making the playoffs this year.
Dylan, I am not gonna lie. I had the Dolphins having 2 Devontaes at wideout. I had them taking Devontae Smith, Dylan. He is a Heisman winner, Dylan. I know Jamar Chase is right there. It's neck and neck. I honestly would not blame them for selecting either wideout, but Jamar Chase set the SEC record for receptions and touchdowns the year before. And guess who broke both of those records in this most previous year? That was Devontae Smith, Dylan, breaking both of Jamar Chase's records. I'm not suggesting he's a better wideout. I'm not. But Devontae Smith, the length that he offers, I feel like he's going to be an easier target for Tua to throw to, especially since Tua's deep ball has been questionable throughout his college career and his NFL career. I feel like Devontae Smith will offer the tools that Tua needs to reconstruct his chemistry with them. And also because Devontae Smith, being an Alabama program product such as Tua himself, I feel like there may be some underlying chemistry there that could promote further success.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the Dolphins are going to take a wide receiver. We just obviously disagree with who. The number 7, the Detroit Lions. I have them taking Jalen Waddle, the Alabama wide receiver. Obviously, he's not the same type of receiver as Kenny Golladay, who departed in free agency, but hopefully he can fill the production void. And let's see what Jared Goff looks like in a team that isn't full of all-stars. I think he's going to be okay, but got to give him something. Can't just take his best receiver away before he even played a game with the team.
Dylan, like I said, this wide receiver split was neck and neck for me. I have the Lions actually taking Jamar Chase at 7th, right after Devontae Smith. Dylan, can you tell me, based on your selections, how would you rank the 3 wideouts of Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle?
I'm not going to lie. I did a lot of research last night, so I am not the most educated person in college football. But from what I can tell, I like Jamar Chase a lot because you saw what he could do with an NFL quarterback in Joe Burrow. And then with Waddle and Smith, I mean, both Alabama guys, Alabama receivers normally are good in the NFL. But I don't know. It's wide receivers are kind of a crapshoot in the draft. Because we see guys that get picked in the 5th round that break out of nowhere, and we're just like, oh, where did that guy come from? So I don't know. I think I'd have to. It's really close. Any of those 3, they're all pretty good, but there's always random wide receivers that pop up. So I don't have all 3 of them being selected in my top 10, but they're definitely all going to go in the 1st round for sure.
Dylan, I definitely understand your reservations. one of the best wideouts that we have seen in the modern era, Antonio Brown, was actually selected in one of the later rounds. So you can pluck high-skilled players such as Antonio Brown at wideout, such as Alvin Kamara at running back in the later rounds of the draft. And also, looks can be deceiving, Dylan, so I also understand where you're coming from with that perspective, too. If you can recall, back to one of the earlier drafts, A.J. Green was selected by the Bengals in front of Julio Jones. Now, if we compare their careers, it's sadly not even close. Julio Jones has been the better wideout for...
A.J. Green was good, but Julio's another level. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say A.J. Green was a bad pick, because obviously he was a good wide receiver for them. But, yeah, when you know Julio's right there, that blows. That really stinks.
Yeah.
All right.
Then what did you have sitting down at number 8 for us?
Number 8, the Carolina Panthers. I have them taking Rashawn Slater, the Northwestern offensive lineman. Darnold/Teddy Bridgewater need to be able to stand up in the pocket to feed Christian McCaffrey as much as humanly possible. So I think, yeah, if Darnold's their dude, they need an O-line to protect him, and just more ways that they can be as dependent on Christian McCaffrey as humanly possible.
Dylan, I actually had them selecting Patrick Surtain II. I understand your concerns, and I believe that the hole that you're suggesting they need to fill is more of a concern than Patrick Surtain II at the cornerback position. But Patrick Surtain II, he is clearly and by far the best cornerback in this draft. He is an amazing prospect. He has the physical tools. He displayed that on Pro Day as well. And I just feel that they're going to get mesmerized by the potential of Patrick Surtain II, and they're just going to find a reason to select him at number 8, even though your pick, I believe, would be better suited to them.
Yeah, I don't just totally disagree. I'm an O-lineman type of guy. And
Okay.
then number 9, we have the Denver Broncos. I have them, in this case, taking Justin Fields, the Ohio State quarterback. I think they get whoever the 4th QB is available out of those big 4, Fields, Jones, Wilson, and Trevor Lawrence. Just in my case, with how my draft fell out, they get Fields, and him and Locke are going to duke it out for the starting job.
Dylan, I actually have the Broncos selecting Justin Fields as well. He was the 4th quarterback off of my board as well. And I feel like Locke has been a standard.
He hasn't looked amazing. Pretty simply.
Broncos are champions in the modern era, and I think their fans want to get back to winning. And I think when the Broncos front office sits down and asks themselves, can we win with Locke? Is Locke a Super Bowl level QB? I think the answer has been no so far. Some people have come back and surprised us, as Baker Mayfield recently has this season. But as of right now, I think they're going to have to punch in that QB spot and take Justin Fields, who, as a prospect, may be one of the riskiest but highest potential quarterbacks in this draft, Dylan.
Yes, I agree with you. Obviously, I want the Broncos to be pretty bad as long as possible, being a Raider fan. But who knows? Fields could be something. They could draft a quarterback that really turns it around. But all right, number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. Here's where I have Kyle Pitts going, the Florida tight end. Have him going to the Cowboys. Here's your Jason Witten replacement. You got your tight end for the next 10 to 15 years. Never have to think about it ever again. Dak's got a reliable weapon right there.
Dylan, at number 10, Dylan, that one was honestly a very, very, very tough selection for me. I actually had them taking Slater at 10th. I think Dallas really has a lot of rebuilding to do. I know Dak Prescott's injury was not the fault of the offensive line, but the Dallas Cowboys have been known in recent times for a high-level offensive line, and I feel like they really, really, really want to get back there, especially since they have Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and they already have a plethora of offensive weapons. I feel like the priority now is to protect Dak Prescott, especially after he signed that massive $160 million for 4-year supermax deal contract. They're going to want to keep him safe under center, Dylan, and I feel like Slater's going to be the one to do the job.
I do agree with you that they need to rebuild their offensive line, but Dallas is known for just churning out these offensive lines out of nowhere, so I don't think that it's going to be super far out of the question for them to draft somebody that's going to be a stud later in the draft. But if obviously in my draft I have Pitts falling because I know he's amazing, but at tight end at number 10 still seems crazy to me. But when you look at their lineup, they had Dak under center, Zeke in the backfield, Pitts at tight end, Amari Cooper, Gallup, and who's the other dude that was a rookie last year? That was a wide receiver for them?
CD Lamb.
CD Lamb. That's ridiculous. Dak, just give him an average offensive line. He has the craziest offense ever with him there. And he's going to pop off.
Honestly, Dylan, I think when we sit down and analyze it, whether Kyle Pitts is selected at 4th for Atlanta or whether Kyle Pitts is selected at number 10 for Dallas, whoever gets that bad man may just have the best receiving core in all of football.
They're getting a stud, for sure. For sure. All right, so this following week, the Champions League resumes. We have Chelsea versus Real Madrid and Man City versus Paris Saint-Germain. Who are you taking?
And Dylan, this one was a thinker, a brain teaser. I love Chelsea a lot, but I am gonna have to take Real Madrid. I'm just gonna have to. I feel like in that game, their defense will be able to overwhelm Chelsea's attack, and Real always finds a way to break in and notch in 1 or 2. So I see them taking a lead in the first leg of that play. In PSG versus Manchester City, I don't know how much I have to say. I'm looking at Neymar da Silva da Santos Jr., and then I'm looking at Kylian Mbappe. Those two are some of the nastiest young players I have seen. They're up there with Erling Haaland. I believe those young players are in a tier of their own for their age. So I am going to, in fact, be selecting PSG to defeat Man City, regardless of the score that comes out of the first leg. If Man City finds a way to snatch a 1-goal lead, possibly even 2-goal lead, I'm still going to be taking PSG to come out on top.
So Neymar, the 29-year-old rising star, huh?
Hey, looks young as ever.
Yeah, these matchups are really good. Obviously, we're at that point in the Champions League where every matchup is really good. With Chelsea versus Real Madrid, I think Tuchel is legit. I feel like that's a lot to ask for him to get to the Champions League final in his first 6 months on the Chelsea job. I think it's going to be really close, but it's Real Madrid in Europe. They've won this competition the most times. I mean, I'm not going to bet against Real Madrid. I think it's going to be really close, but they'll find a way to squeak it out and reach the final. And then PSG and Man City, the battle of the oil money. I mean, whew. I like the stars of PSG. I really do. But given that this is Pochettino's first, 3/4 of a season, I don't know how much he really has this team tactically buying into what he's doing and how good they're executing their plan, his game plan, versus Pep. This is the year, dude. You got to win the Champions League. This team has been drilled and drilled into perfection of his image of what football is. And I think this is the year City gets it done and reaches the final. It's so hard to discount Neymar and Mbappe. But if I just look at the way that City's been playing, dominating the league, I mean, they got knocked out in the FA Cup semifinals, but whatever. They're a League Cup final that they've already reached yet to play. I think this is the year they get the Champions League and bring it home. Ruben Dias has been a sensation at the back. You can argue up top at striker, they're missing a little bit of production with Aguero declining and getting some injury woes, and Gabriel Jesus just being decent but not amazing. But I think it's got to happen. Pep's been throwing too much money at this team for them not to get to it finally.
Dylan, I can say this after you've spoken your piece. I would want Manchester City to win for Pep, for Sergio Kun Aguero's final season with them. I would really, really want them to come out on top, but when I look at PSG, if I had to compare them to something, I'm looking at a two-headed hydra, Dylan. That's what I'm looking at. I just don't see how City stops them. If I had to pick coaching and chemistry, I'm going to be taking City as well. And City is a very fine football team. But PSG, I just see no solution. And because I see no solution, I'm going to have to take them in a final analysis.
See, I hear what you're saying with Neymar and Mbappe. But if you compare the teams, the only two players that when you compare position to position, right back, center back, the only two players that City is winning, or that PSG is winning at, is Neymar and Mbappe. Otherwise, City has a better team. And I just can't just give it to PSG just because they have two better players in those positions.
Well, Dylan, I'm going to have to cap it off with this. I understand your concern, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if City did come out on top. But if we do look at our last World Cup just for reference, and we look at Spain versus Portugal, Spain's team was better constructed, but they did have one superstar on Portugal by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo that did lead their team to at least secure a draw and advance from that group stage. So, although City has a better constructed team, sometimes the superstars can pull it off, and that's what I'm going to be banking on. I know you're banking on the team. I'm going to be banking on the superstars, and I guess we're just going to have to see how it plays out.
I think we kind of saw it in last year's final, again, with PSG and Bayern, because you could say the similar thing in that matchup. Bayern has the better team, but City has those two superstars. And in the end, the better team won. So I think it's going to be a similar case. History teaches us, normally, the Spurs beat the big three Miami. So I got to go with the Spurs here. Choosing City. I know that out of context that sounds so weird because Spurs and Spurs, but our audience knows basketball and soccer. So there you go.
There you go, guys. Dylan, I believe there's one exciting thing that you wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah, did this Jake Paul Ben Askren fight? Good job, Ben. You got the check, dude. You made out with some money.
You know, he got it like a bandit and got out of there.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I watched the 15 seconds of it. That was, wow.
You know, Dylan, would you call Jake Paul a real boxer right now?
I don't know. He's fought what? A couple YouTubers, Nate Robinson, and Ben Askren for 10 seconds. Like, he's boxed for maybe a total of like 10 minutes. Like, it's hard to say.
I honestly see where you're coming from. I can't lie. I need him to fight someone that I believe packs a punch. I need him to fight a real boxer before I can really truly take his wins for what they are. You know, if you had to pick who Jake Paul's next matchup would be, what would you like to see? I personally would like to see him against JJ Olatunji, the one and only KSI, but I don't know if that fight's going to be crafted. What would you like to see, Don?
I mean, KSI and Jake could be something, but I think Jake's really going to push for that Conor McGregor one, which, Conor, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, just don't. Come on, you don't need to do that. I know Floyd already caved in and is fighting Logan, which is just stupid. Logan's probably going to get destroyed. Or Floyd's just going to make some money and get out of there. Mm-hmm. But it's tough. They got to fight some lower ranked people that aren't totally out of it. Because from what I can understand, I'm not a big MMA boxing fighting guy, but it seemed like Ben Askren was kind of washed. Or he was just kind of not at his peak anymore. I think both Logan and Jake should probably fight more of a mid-tier fighter, but that's at the peak of their powers and isn't just looking at it for a quick paycheck or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be the only way to credit them as real boxers.
Yeah.
I love them, but I need to see more.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, we have Kamaru Usman rematching Jorge Masvidal. I know Jorge Masvidal was suspected by many, many individuals to win the first fight, but Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, actually knocked him out in the fourth round. Sensational victory by Usman, very well deserved, and Masvidal's coming back for more. To be honest, this one is splitting hairs, but I am going to have to select Usman as my favorite, but Masvidal does have an arsenal. He does know how to fight, standing up. He knows how to grapple. And he's an all-around average plus in every element of the game, so he is nothing to scoff at. But this UFC mega fight, UFC 261 mega fight, I am going to have to be selecting Usman for that one.
It's definitely one to watch with all the UFC stuff going on. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. This has been a long time coming, and we hope to continue to make more of these. And this has been good. Enjoyed getting back in the booth, so they say, with Tabena.
Yeah, thank you guys. 60 plus is once again, like we said, something that we launched just to put smiles on our faces, have fun, and put smiles on the faces of our listeners as well. We really hope that you guys loved this episode and tune in for the next one. Thank you.
Yep. See you guys later.